This video is going to be a full start to finish walkthrough of my pencil sketching drawing process. So this is pretty similar to some oil painting walkthroughs that I've been sharing. I thought I'd try something a little different and do one that is just for pencil sketching. So to start my process, I follow a pretty similar procedure now to painting. So I try to freehand draw these, and usually how I start out is I try to rough out the shape of the head, or at least what's visible through the hair and through other things that might be blocking some of the features, but try to get that rough head shape. And then I use a horizontal line and a vertical line to indicate kind of the midline of the face so that I get the right angle. And then the horizontal line gives me approximate placement for the darkest shadows of the eyes. So what I mean by the darkest shadow of the eyes is just sort of those deeper set portions. Usually that aligns with maybe the top of the eyelid, but not always. It just depends on the subject. So in this case, it was mostly just that darkest part. And then I try to roughly gauge where the tip of the nose is going to be and where the mouth is going to be. Typically that vertical line that I use to kind of guide myself is sort of where the midline of the nose and where the midline of the mouth and lips are going to be. So rough that out. And then the underside of the mouth is that other dark area that you see there. I don't usually add any highlights to the lips, to the bottom lip, until I get closer to the end. Really, this is just to kind of rough out where the dark and light portions of the subject's face are. So once I've got the eyes, nose, and mouth in place, then I start to build out shadow shapes. So this is where my pencil sketching process is very similar to my painting process, in that I'm trying to find and identify sort of light and dark sections, more so in shapes. And this is actually a little trickier than painting, because naturally a pencil is a sharp point, so it's just building lines for you, which painting is sometimes not necessarily about lines, more so about shapes. So this is certainly, in some ways, it's like trying to fit a round peg into a square hole in some senses, but still it's kind of a natural evolution from having painted quite a lot in the last year. It definitely had an impact on my drawing process. Previously, I would focus a lot more on like discrete lines in drawings, and now I try to get away from that a little bit. So blocking out those shapes, and then if it's a figure study, then I'll also do a midline for the body and do horizontal lines for the shoulders and for the hip. This is obviously not a figure study, so there's nothing below the shoulders, but that's how I would proceed if I did have that. So here, I just kind of roughed out roughly where the clavicle would be and where the shoulders come across. Not something that I spent an overly significant amount of time on this one, but just to give the suggestion of what I'm looking at here. At some point, I missed it, but in this progression, but I also at some point kind of brush away or erase that midline vertical line that I used, just to get that out of the way. Most of it, the portions of the nose and mouth, usually it gets covered by shadow and by shading and things like that, but that forehead is usually pretty bright compared to other sections, so I had to erase that. But so what I'm doing now in the video is a little smudging. Now this is something that I recognize that real expert, professional level pencil sketchers and drawers probably don't rely on smudging this much. I think it's important to point out here that I'm by no means a pencil drawing expert in any sense. I wouldn't consider myself to be someone who is trying to make refined pencil sketches that are like works of art or anything. More so, this is something that I do for fun. You can see that the paper that I'm using is from a sketchbook. So I've tried to start keeping a sketchbook to some extent when I don't feel like getting out the paints, I'll bust out the sketchbook and do some, some portraits and some doodles, and just, when I feel like making art that has less cleanup involved, I'll go to the sketchbook just for a little fun time here. So it's something that I do in between paintings, I guess. But yeah, you'll find that a lot of the sketches that I don't share a whole lot of them, but the ones that I do share are relatively rough. And often they are repeats of paintings that I've done. So this one I have not actually done a painting of yet, but I probably will, because I find it pretty fun to compare the pencil sketch to the painting and see, was I able to repeat a likeness, and how different is it, and what was different. I often find that I learn from this more than I might expect sometimes. So at this point in the pencil drawing process, I've done a lot of refinement. I'm trying here to kind of get some highlighted areas and also refocus some brighter spots and some darker spots. So I'm really trying to get some of the deeper shadows to pop. I think, I was mentioning expert pencil artists. My understanding and impression is that typically they spend a lot more time on pencil sketches, and they will layer their pencil and hold the pencil very lightly to put more and more layers on. They would take their time to meticulously add those layers. I clearly don't do that. My pencil sketches are usually not any longer than 20 minutes, so you'll see that I'm not really taking the time to layer this as an expert probably would. So I think with some of those real high-level pencil artists, you do see a lot more subtlety between color value shifts, or I guess color value is black and white, but light and dark shifts. You'll see more subtlety there. With mine, I think maybe this is a little too self-deprecating, but the word ham-fisted comes to mind here with some of the changes between light and dark. Maybe that's a little too mean, but that's kind of how it makes me laugh to think of it that way sometimes. I did try to add a little shadow here, a little kind of reflection of the hair back onto the face, just for some finer points. But I think I maybe went a little too dark in some sections too, because when I was going through this, I recall trying to get darker in certain areas and not being able to, because the surrounding areas were already too dark. So that was kind of a difficulty. But so that is overall my basic pencil sketch drawing process. I hope that was useful and a kind of a nice departure, change of pace from the usual oil painting videos that I do. I'm gonna continue to try to build out more of these start to finish walkthrough conversations. I've got various time lengths already on the YouTube channel. Definitely let me know if these are valuable, if there are other lengths that you find useful. I'm definitely open to trying different ones. So thank you for watching, and I hope to see you for the next one.
Mm.